Welcome everyone. Welcome on this lovely Sunday morning. It's bitter cold here.
It is.
Bitter cold. And but the sun is out, which is good. We haven't seen that too often lately.
No, it's wonderful. Wonderful to see the sun. And it's nice to see you,
Yes.
Kind of, you're
Yeah,
seeing
virtually.
us. And we'll see you virtually.
Yes, because of COVID.
Well, it's good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
There
We
you
get
go.
to interact with another human being.
It is good. It is good.
Please try to interact with other human beings. It's good for the soul.
It is. It's healthy. It's a healthy thing to do.
Even if you have to wear your mask or whatever, we're all vaccinated, boosted.
But if you can't interact with other human beings, take a minute to watch some of our videos. You'll be enlightened, you'll be intrigued, and we would love to hear what you think about them.
Yes.
In the meantime, welcome to Bridge Builders of Diversity. Today we're going to talk about transition planning.
I'm Sherry. I'm a mother of a child with Down syndrome, and this is Roberta.
And I'm a special education teacher, and together we are bringing you information about issues around disabilities and just how magnificent people with disabilities can be and how they enhance our lives.
Absolutely. And if there's any topic on disabilities you want done, please put a comment down below. We're more than happy to research the topic if we're not familiar with it. But between Roberta and I, we have a good understanding.
A little bit of information between the two of us.
Just a little. We've both been living this life for a long time.
We live this. Ooh, and it shows. It shows.
So today, like Roberta said, we're going to be talking about transition planning. Like when my son came into the world, we started with early intervention. He went through that, his, educational, speech, language, occupational therapy, physical therapy. And so that was like 0 to 3. Then he moved into his IEP, went to a preschool.
That's an individual education plan, and that's something, that's a document that you receive when you receive special services to the public school.
Yes. And so at age 3, he entered preschool with an IEP that had plan goals for him to work on and skills and stuff like that, educational goals. And so that lasts till about the age of 14, and then we go into transition planning, which is at that age, the student, in Rhode Island it's 14, some states are 16.
Federally, it's mandated to be 16,
Yeah.
but some states have found that if they start earlier and start giving lots and lots of experiences to these students, that they have better outcomes. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Right.
Let's start back at the process.
Right. So at age 14, my son is able to start now attending IEP meetings and be a part of his plan. Though with COVID this last year, because everything's virtual and stuff, he wasn't included this year. So, next year I'm going to make sure that they set aside time in school to have him Zoom in as well if we're still Zooming.
Right.
I mean, they had him come and say.
It's so important to hear what his goals. That's one of the main things that aspects of the transition plan that I feel is necessary to focus on is the students' individual goals. What did they want? What do they prefer? Those are the things that you have to look at, and you're going to have success if these are intrinsically motivating avenues of endeavor. So, avenues of endeavor, that sounds really lofty. What I mean are things that they like to do. So, it all begins.
She's a teacher.
I know, and sometimes I use big words. Just stop me. Stop me, I'm getting out of control. So, who's involved in the transition plan? Well, we just talked about the student. I think the student is the most important member of that team. And then we have the parents, because as we've said over and over again, parents are the experts in what their child needs, especially when they're younger. Then we have the teachers, and usually a child with an IEP has had the same group of teachers and therapists for at least a few years. If things are working the way they should. I know that in larger school districts, sometimes kids go from place to place as they get older, but in smaller districts, they tend to stay with a core group of people, which is nice because then they have a good sense of where the child is.
It is good, but I also think it's good for them to mix it up a little bit so the child understands and learns how to adapt to different people as they get older.
Oh, isn't that, maybe we should do a video on that. Like, that's such a fine, double-edged sword, when you have somebody who knows your child very, very well, sometimes things get static. You're right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You're right. But optionally, you can have employers, student advocates, and community organizations also involved in these transition meetings. I know that that's something that Bridge Builders of Diversity is really interested in doing for people, is helping them through this transition process. And then we go into the process. So now the student in our state is 14, and the goal is to start with a summary of performance, which is a fancy way of saying where is the student functioning. But this also includes their preferences, their aptitudes, and their interests, their future goals, because they might have a disability, but that doesn't take away their goals and their ideas for the future. So it's gonna, hopefully we go into that first transition meeting with a really solid look at where the student is functioning, what they're super good at, where their strengths lie, and what skills they need to be independent. They might need independent skills, they might need social skills, they might need some communication skills to really boost them up and get ready to go out into that typical world. So the transition, now you have your summary of performance, and your transition team's ready to go.
And it's important to get the students' input in what they like. The school my son goes to, they gave him like some type of questionnaire to show what things he was interested in.
And there's a lot of different ones, but what you're going to look for is, did the transition team take the time to at least interview my student, my child, and find out what their interests are. Take the time to get to know them. What are their hobbies? What do they like to do in their spare time? Because these things all influence what we do outside of school. Mm-hmm. Think about your vocation, and think about the things that you would like to do. What are your goals for the future? A student with disabilities has those same goals. They just have a harder time getting through to communicate them. And remember, they've been working their whole lives toward entering the typical world. So now's when we put the point on the pencil and we get ready to jump in. So first thing the team is going to do is identify what their goals are. We've already talked about that. Mm-hmm. Discuss what the student's strengths are. What are they currently capable of doing? I'm not going to send a child with fine motor weakness into a job that's going to require them to use fine motor skills. So there's an example. A child who doesn't have really good social communication skills, I'm not going to put them on a front desk and ask them to communicate with the public. But I am going to, those kids that are the mayor of the classroom, I'm going to try to get them on the front desk. I'm going to get them greeting people and interacting with the public, because they're going to really be stellar at that. And I'm going to take the kid who has a lot of attention to detail, who really knows, is able to count really quickly, or put together intricate puzzles. I'm going to put them into a job where they're going to use that strength. They're going to be putting little pieces together, or they're going to be creating things that require that attention to detail. Mm-hmm. But then we're going to go on to that transition activities. And this is really interesting to me, because I don't typically work in transition. I work at the other end of the transition. Mm-hmm. I'm working with students who are 3 to 5. So now, but I always have the vision of where are they going to go? Right. That where are they going to go from here? Where are they going to progress to? And what are their strengths? So with that in mind, that's why I'm so fascinated by transition planning. So each transition activity requires them to achieve a skill, mm-hmm. or hone a skill that they already have, and try something outside of the school. I know a lot of schools will send kids out into the community, in volunteer roles. One of my friends that I'm still in touch with is working right now in a food pantry. Yep. And he and I go back and forth about like how it's a job, and sometimes you don't always love it. You know, there's going to be aspects. So, but he's right now, and he feels really super good about himself, and he's out in the community and meeting people.
And that's important for people with disabilities. They still want to be productive members of society, and they want to be included in the workforce as well.
Absolutely. And in life, we so many people with disabilities are unemployed.
Yes.
Or underemployed. They might be doing volunteer work and getting out of the house maybe 1 to 2 times a week. That's living in isolation. That's
Poverty.
and poverty. You're living in poverty and isolation, and you're very, very dependent. One of the things that that I want for my little students is I want them to feel a sense of independence.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to always be looking to someone else to take care of them or to make decisions for them. So these are the steps. I guess this transition plan are the steps toward independence and adulthood. And we're not going to ask kids to do anything outside. You're not going to ask them to do anything outside of their ability range. I wouldn't put a kid in a wheelchair as a bike messenger. Maybe a scooter messenger. They like that.
Right.
All right. So the transition rights of student. Oops. Let me put my teeth back in. Finally, there's a transfer of rights to the student. So under IDEA, I have to read this a little bit because I mess up the numbers. IDEA's revision in 2004 requires that at least 1 year before the student reaches the age of majority, and in different states that's different ages. Some it's 21, some it's 22, and other states allow, depending on when the child's birthday is, allows them to stay in school until they're 23. So that was part of the 2004 revision. So is to one of the primary job, the primary thing that's going to happen when you transfer the rights over to the student is alert the student and explain to them what it means, what their responsibilities are going to be, and what we're going to be looking for them to do at these transition meetings. We're also going to provide the student notice of meetings. And they're going to get invited. Like you said,
Mm-hmm.
Nate wasn't invited to his last one. That kind of probably felt flat without his input there.
Yeah, he only came and said hi to everybody, and then they sent him off to class. But I'm going to make sure the next one he's
Right,
there
because
for the whole thing.
Absolutely, because he has a lot to share, and it's his future.
Right.
And then you just keep going with every year. Where are we now? What have we tried? What was successful? And like I said, checking in with that student and making sure that they're happy in the transition process,
Mm-hmm.
and that their goals will eventually be met, or they have the tools to meet the goals that they want. I have a lot of resources for people who are interested, and we're going to put these in the comments. But
or in the description section.
Oops, sorry, we're going to put it in the description. But my favorite one so far was the National Clearinghouse on Post-Secondary Education for Individuals with Disabilities. Isn't that a mouthful? But that was the one where I found the most information, and it really spelled out that transition process in a way that not just I could understand, but I feel like a parent would really understand. And your local school district will be able to give you information, even if your student isn't 14 or 16 yet. It's not a bad time to start talking to whoever organizes those IEP meetings, or even your child's teacher would be able to get you that information on how your district handles the transition, and things that you can be doing in the meantime to start to prepare for it.
Absolutely.
It's an exciting time.
If you like our content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification so you get our most recent videos. And
thank you.
Thank you guys.
We appreciate you. Bye.
Bye.